My name is Deliana Brown, and first and foremost, I am a mother. I'm also a colon hydrotherapist, as well as I am a student at the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts. My son is 10 years old, and he calls me the poop doctor. I became very passionate about educating people on health in June of 2012 when I lost my cousin to esophageal cancer. She was only 32 years old, and I was very confused because my father had lived through cancer and my grandmother had lived through cancer. So being uneducated about health, I just thought you get cancer and you go through your treatments and you live. So I was very confused when she passed away, and at that point became very driven to learn more about the body and what did not fight in her. And that is when I discovered colon hydrotherapy. My cousin was very important to me. I didn't have any sisters, and she was like the big sister that I never had. She was also the godmother of my son, and I chose that. I picked her to be his godmother for specific reasons. She tried to have kids her entire marriage and was unsuccessful. And so I knew if anything ever happened to me, there would be no better person than her and her husband to take care of my son. When she got sick, I really took it for granted, and I didn't spend the time with her that I felt I should have spent with her. I was very busy with my life and with, being a mom and the things I had going on. She was diagnosed with stage 4 esophageal cancer in 2011, and June 2012 is when she finally passed away. Her body just wasn't equipped to fight anymore. I actually was there in the hospital room the night that she passed away when they finally decided to take her off of life support. I had like this outer body experience because I was standing at the end of the bed and I'm watching them taking all the tubes out of her. And she stopped breathing within like 5 minutes, which the doctor said that typically doesn't happen. They will live for a couple hours. She died so quickly, like her body was just ready to give up. I felt like I was looking at myself for a moment, whether it was her or whether it was me. Something was just like, it changes today. Like your life changes today. Right now, nothing will ever be the same again. And that's exactly how it was. My mindset, I walked out of there just a completely different person, a brand new person. In that moment, I just knew I had to stop taking life for granted. It was almost instant that I wanted to take my own life and my own health more serious. I was at a really bad point in my life with my own health and my weight and my digestive issues that I was ignoring for a very long time. And when she passed away, I just became immediately inspired to do something different. I actually have a tattoo of her name on my wrist for that reason, just as a constant reminder. Her name is Laura, and she was very young. It really felt scripted because it was supposed to be me, and I never saw. I had no vision on a future. I was just living life day for day, and doing very in the moment things that compromised my health. And her dying was like the wake-up call that I needed. I've never lost anybody close to me. Like everybody, my grandparents died when I was very young, so I wasn't impacted by that. So everybody in my family is still alive. So I was not prepared for her death at all. And I know that's why I was so influenced by it, because of who she was in my life, who she was in my son's life. And she was like my biggest supporter. She was always telling me, regardless of how dark of times I got into, she was just always telling me like, it's only temporary. This is only temporary. And I would tell her the same thing when she was sick. But it wasn't temporary. So I knew I had
to do something different every day after she died, because at that point I felt like I had eyes on me. Even though I had a son who was watching me, I feel like now I always have eyes on me.
Once she passed away and I started on my journey of becoming more healthy, that's when I discovered colon hydrotherapy. And it was colon hydrotherapy that when I started receiving the education on what the body is trying to say to you when your digestive system stops working. She had dealt with so many digestive issues over the years where her abdominal section was completely distended, and throughout her entire treatment, she was constipated, she could not eat. They had her on a series of laxatives and they were not working for her. And when I learned about the correlation between the mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, and all of the organs right down to the colon, it just made sense why her body was sick and why her body could not fight. She had been constipated her entire adult life. And so I took my digestive health more serious because her and I shared a lot of the same issues. Like it became a running joke where we're like, did you poop today? And I was like, girl, you know I didn't go to the bathroom. Like, we weren't using the restroom, and it was very common in our family. And so the more I began to learn about the digestive system, the more I was having my own colonics and receiving the education from my therapist, the more inspired I was become to just tell the world about this, because constipation is so common of an issue, and unfortunately not enough people talk about it because of the nature of what we're talking about. Nobody wants to talk about that very private issue. I committed to my own health and my own wellness, and it was because of colon hydrotherapy that I was able to have a breakthrough and literally have a brand new life. And I felt like my whole drive behind that was because of my cousin. It was unfortunate. It was a real shock to the entire family when we lost her, but her death did not go in vain because she was an inspiration to me. And after she passed away in June, it really wasn't until October when I started to transition. I really had to get into like a better mental space with the lifestyle that I was trying to take on. I worked a lot, and with the nature of my job, I was eating very unhealthy. So I actually quit my job and went to a very less demanding job for my own peace of mind. And it was October of 2012 when I decided to buy a session for colon hydrotherapy. And when I went for my first session, I received a lot of education because I didn't have any breakthrough. Nothing happened during that session. And that's when I learned that my body was dehydrated, my body was severely impacted, and I committed to 15 sessions at that point. And after that first session, I made the commitment to eat better because I had made up my mind, like, I'm not going to try to take the bad stuff out and put bad stuff back in. It wasn't until session 8 when I finally had a breakthrough, because that's how severely impacted I was. But leading up until that point, I had been eating better, my water intake had gotten better. I was just making conscious lifestyle choices at that point. I wasn't mindlessly eating, and I was educating myself more on nutrition and health. And once I actually experienced a breakthrough with colon hydrotherapy, to the removal of that waste that had been sitting in my body for Lord God knows how long, it was instant. It was instant. I was a brand new person. Just the removal of all of those toxins and those things that were accumulating in my body and affecting my mind state and my energy levels, and even the way I walked, because I always had back pain and different things. When I finally experienced a breakthrough, it was that moment I walked out of there and said, this is what I want to do. I have to do this. I have to teach people this, because we're not talking about it. We shun it because of what it is, and I just wasn't okay with that, because it's killing people. It literally is a silent killer. And I made up my mind after that 8th session that this is what I wanted to do with my life. And I was just passionate, I was on fire. There was nothing that was gonna stop me. It's literally life-changing. It's waste that we're getting out of our bodies, and people walk around with it all the time, and it creates sicknesses and illnesses. And like I tell people, the most easiest way I could explain it is, what happens if you get it in your mouth? You get sick, right? Like, what happens if you touch it? You get it in your mouth. What happens if you touch it? You get it in your eye. You get sick, because that's what it is. It's waste, it's toxic, but that's what's sitting inside your body all the time when you're constipated. And luckily our bodies are built to sustain itself, so it finds ways to create this homeostasis within the body, but those toxins will create just other ailments, from the most simplest common cold up until cancer. And I'm not okay with that. Like, I'm just not okay with that, because there's ways to naturally cleanse your body, and laxatives are not natural. They're just not. They're addictive. Your body becomes dependent on them, and they're very chemical based. And unfortunately, they have their own side effects. So colon hydrotherapy is it's everything in my life.